Hello everybody. This is Neha, your podcast host, bringing you our very first episode of Denodo Data Bites. We are extremely excited to begin this data journey with all of you today. And now I would like to welcome Ravi Shankar, our Senior Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer here at Denodo. Ravi is our marketing guru responsible for Denodo's global marketing efforts, including product marketing, demand generation, communications, and partner marketing. Ravi brings to his role more than 25 years of proven marketing leadership from enterprise software leaders such as Oracle and Informatica. We are very happy to have you on board, Ravi. Thank you for joining us today. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at Denodo?
Thank you, Neha. I'm really happy to be here as part of this podcast. And if you want me to record all about myself, you might need the entire podcast just for that question alone. But I will try to keep it succinct. I come from both an engineering as well as a business background. So this has given me a very good understanding of the technology that we actually work in. And I have actually cut my teeth in the data business for 20 plus years across Oracle, Informatica, and so on. And here at Denodo, as you mentioned, I manage the worldwide marketing efforts. And I'm really happy to be part of the great journey that Denodo has had. When I joined about 6.5 years ago, we had less than 100 people in the company and about 6 employees here at in marketing. But now we are more than 10 times that number, spread across 11 different countries. And also Denodo has grown to such an extent. And I'm happy to be part of all this journey and driving the data virtualization adoption in the world.
Wow, that's quite a journey you've had and such immense growth at Denodo as well. So as a tech marketing veteran, how would you advise newcomers entering this industry to begin their data journey?
I would say that it's an exciting field to be in, especially the data and the analytics areas. When I graduated from my undergraduate and master's in engineering, computer science was it. That's it. But now I see we have had some interns coming from great institutions like University of California, Berkeley for the past few years, and they have been doing some kind of a minor in data and analytics. And recently, one of our interns who interned with us last summer told me that she is actually pursuing a master's in business analytics as part of the MBA. So the data is going to be a very exciting field and immense career opportunities for you to sustain 30, 40 years of working in it. And I strongly encourage people to adopt it and ride the wave.
An exciting field indeed, and definitely a lot of opportunity for growth in the data world, I'd say. So let's talk about the basics. What is data virtualization and what is the need for it, in your opinion?
Sure. Data virtualization is a real-time data integration and delivery mechanism. And what I mean by that is there are a lot of data spread across multiple different systems in different locations, in the data centers, in the cloud, in multiple different formats, in terms of being very structured, unstructured, semi-structured, and also in different latencies, whether it is in data in motion or data at rest and so on. And many organizations, especially big companies like our customers, struggle to find a unified view of that information and deliver it to the business users in real time in a fashion that meets their time needs. And quite often, without the data virtualization, they have been using other legacy data integration technologies to bring together the data, replicating that into a different source, trying to curate it, format it to the business user needs, and then delivering it. All this takes time, costs more, and requires an army of engineers to do it. Data virtualization does all this without having to replicate the data. So it is much more faster, it's cheaper, and it does it in a fraction of the time and the resources that legacy data integration tools take.
Wow, it's great to know that data virtualization provides faster time to data for business users. So when did this concept of data virtualization begin, and how did cloud modernization come into the picture?
Sure. Data virtualization is as old as the data integration itself. So it began about 20 years ago. That's when Denodo basically started in the business purely with the data virtualization. And it was to overcome the challenges that the traditional data integration such as ETL or extract transform load were used predominantly for loading the data into data warehouses. And they had a lot of shortcomings that I explained before. And if you look at the Gartner hype cycle, they have different hype cycles. The one for the data management you would see data virtualization is all the way at the right end of that hype cycle, which means it's a very stable technology that has reached the plateau of stabilization within the Gartner hype cycle and the plateau of productivity. And that means the technology is being used by thousands of different customers. It has been tested and it actually works really well. Now, the cloud modernization effort basically started about, I would say, about 7, 8 years ago. So we have had customers as old as that using that to migrate their legacy data from old on-premise stores to the cloud. And data virtualization has very much been part of that particular journey. And I'll be happy to talk about some of the customer use cases.
Definitely, Ravi. So I didn't realize that data virtualization has been around for such a long time and is a very stable technology too. And Denodo was one of the pioneering companies, if I can say so. Can you share a customer story about cloud migration using data virtualization, how it has solved some business problems for them?
Sure. The example that I would quote is basically Logitech. As I mentioned, Logitech was one of the early companies that adopted the migration to the cloud simply because they saw the benefit of shifting the cost from the capital expenditure to the operational expenditure and modernizing their infrastructure. But it was not easy migrating a company as big as Logitech with all the different devices to the cloud and systems that are spread across multiple different countries and different continents. So the data virtualization basically became the go-to technology within Logitech that provided an enterprise data layer under which the IT was able to slowly migrate from their existing on-premises systems to the cloud. And at that time, they actually chose AWS as their cloud service provider, and they migrated to all the tools and technologies within AWS stack, and they were able to enable that. And data virtualization provided the cover for the business users to be able to continue using the data from these different applications, even as these migrations were going on without having any downtime. And in fact, when they were using, for example, AWS Redshift, which was the analytical platform within the AWS ecosystem, they found some performance limitations as they were scaling up the worldwide operations, and they wanted to switch to another cloud data warehouse such as Snowflake. And it was very easy for them to take the Redshift out and plug back the Snowflake into their architecture seamlessly without having any disruption from the business side. So the data virtualization provided that cover for the IT teams to be able to make these migrations in a very flexible manner and protecting the business users from consuming the data at the same time.
That's a great use of data virtualization at Logitech to advance product innovations. So moving forward, can you summarize the value that data virtualization brings to customers?
Sure. The example that I mentioned with Logitech, without mentioning the name, it is a data abstraction. So think about data virtualization as a middle or intermediary technology that decouples the underlying sources from the business consumers. So the data abstraction is a very powerful concept that I have not seen with any other technology in my 30 plus years being in the technology industry. And this is very crucial for many business teams as well as for the IT teams, because the business teams would like to move faster, whereas the IT teams take time to actually migrate, because technology migration is not an easy chore. So what happens in this case is that there's a disconnect between the two teams, and the business users end up having to wait as the technology teams upgrade their infrastructure. But the data virtualization enables the business users, like in the Logitech's case, to be able to continue using the data for their business operations while the IT is migrating under the covers to any modern technology that they want without any business disruption. So that is a key value that data virtualization brings. The other ones are obviously the real-time effect. So the data that comes from the source is available to the business users at the same time, since the data is not replicated into yet another system. So as the data is created through the business operations at the source, the business users, whether it is at the call center or analytics users, are able to see the data fresh. So that's a big advantage as well.
Wow, I've heard about data abstraction before, but I didn't realize that data virtualization is the only technology that can enable it. So that's really great. And what are some areas for us to further delve into if we want to understand the scope of data virtualization?
Sure. Many people are confused by data virtualization because of its real-time nature and it is moving the data and whether it can be really slow. So one of the areas for the listeners to understand more is on the performance side. So usually the sources from where the data come from could be resident in the millions or billions of rows of data. And data virtualization doesn't lift all of the data. It actually tries to run the queries, tries to optimize the information, and bring back just the results to the business consumers. And it is like I always use this analogy: if you have asking for a glass of water, and you can bring the entire pitcher, and you can give the person a cup of water, but or the other hand, you can just go to wherever the pitcher is, pick up the cup of water and then just transport it. It'll be faster to transport the cup of water rather than the entire pitcher itself. So that way, like data virtualization is like bringing the water in just a cup. So it moves only the minimal data that is actually required by the business users by reducing all the data that it lifts from the sources. And that way it is able to transport it much faster. So that's one area that the listeners should basically become more familiar. The other area I would talk about more recently is in the artificial intelligence and the machine learning areas. Data integration and especially data virtualization is being automated to a great extent using AI and ML. So this actually provides a great benefit for you, one, to get the data as quickly as possible without having to do a lot of the manual work. So a lot of it is automated. And also it comes in the form of recommendations. With the sea of data out there, it is hard to know what data where and how to kind of bring them all together. And by using these intelligent algorithms, the data virtualization and Denodo especially can actually provide that in form of recommendations to the users. So that way they know how to work with the data and make the most use of it.
Thanks for sharing that, Ravi. It was really good to know about everything data virtualization today. And now it's time for a quick question and answer round. So let's get started. So what has been your favorite job that you've held?
Oh, okay. All right. That's a tricky question. Hope my boss is hearing this question. So I would have to say it's Denodo.
Great. That's really good. And tell me about the one most influential person in your life and how they impacted you.
Oh, okay. As you might have heard saying that behind every successful man is a woman. So probably it's my wife and her constant nagging. At some point I have to give up and get up and do the work. So that's probably the impact that I see.
Oh, that's really good to hear. And how would your family describe what you do?
Oh, okay. All right. So they would probably say that I'm a workaholic. And I thought I was actually setting an example of working hard. But I would say that's probably backfired with my children. They think like engineers work very hard, and they actually took to pursuing a medical field so that they don't have to work this hard.
Not the result you expected then.
No, it's not. I don't have any engineers to follow me in my family.
All right. Great to hear. Thank you so much, Ravi. This has been a really fascinating session today. And thank you for joining us on this data journey with us.
Well, thank you for including me. I really enjoyed this.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this episode as much as we did recording it. A quick message to our listeners: if you enjoyed this episode, please head over to www.denodo.com/podcast to find out more resources on all things data.